next year is literally right around the corner, and somehow I feel like we're already living in the future. If you grew up in the late 1900s, like I did, you're probably very familiar with the Jetsons. For those of you who didn't, well, the Jetsons, it was an American family, and they lived in the year 2062. They were so famous because they had the craziest tech gadgets. Look at this. They had smartwatches, which they used to talk to the Flintstones. They had electric treadmills for their pet. Once in a while, they would travel to outer space for fun or for work. And the mom, she had the audacity of working out by herself from the comfort of her living room through a flat screen and a personal instructor telling her what to do. You see where I'm going with this, right? My favorite gadget was this one, that they were able to talk to their family members no matter where they were, which we can do today, and that is why my nieces want to say hi. So it is truly impressive and remarkable everything that we've been able to accomplish, and that most of us either have these gadgets already or at least know of them. We're also somehow still stuck in the past, which is also impressive and remarkable because we're still complaining about endless traffic jams. And yes, the prices are going up again, and the gender wage gap is not getting shrinking. Social media, we know about the effects that it has on our mental health, and still we're addicted to it. We feel and see the effects of climate change, especially here in Miami, and we're not doing enough to tackle it. More and more of these things are happening. And what is happening, right? Like, why are we able to solve any of these things? I personally blame it on tradition. And not the beautiful traditions that we celebrate from our homes, but this global tradition of giving every single responsibility of the good things and bad things that happen to society to three mythical creatures: the private sector, the public sector, and civil society. No matter where we are in the world, the reality is that our economic models are somewhat still dependent on these three sectors. And we kind of obey their inventions, and we're also somewhat dependent on their mediocrity. Let me try to make my point here. Let's look at the private sector and these amazing guys that invented Duolingo. Most of us also have access to this app that we could use on our phones and learn any language that we would like for free. And they've developed such a smart business model that today, if you Google it, their net worth is $16 billion. Speaking of billions, we're more than 8 billion people on this planet, and 700 million humans are still living under extreme poverty, with less than $2 a day. Let's look at the public sector, and let's travel to Medellin, Colombia, the Metrocable. If you've been there, you probably use it because it's an amazing touristy attraction. But the reality is that it opened up 20 years ago to connect the literally marginalized communities that lived outside of the city of Medellin so that they could travel more effectively and more efficiently to work and back from work. The public sector is also responsible for the more than 100 armed conflicts that are happening as I speak, that are killing people right now. Luckily, we have civil society, and they invent beautiful movements like the Tenders of Connection that were born and raised in Miami with the sole purpose of connecting people across lines of difference, precisely political differences, religious differences, age, you name it. And we are also responsible for the biggest pollution crisis of humanity. We're generating so much trash, and we're bringing and giving so much plastic to our planet that we're starting to eat it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we ditch them. I'm just saying that it's about time that we recognize that they've been around for a couple of 100 years. They've been attracting certain types of people. They've been attracting certain types of culture. They've developed certain types of systems. And if we're talking about innovation, they themselves need a little upgrade. So play with me for a second, because what I'm trying to present here today is that we start borrowing the best practices of each of these sectors. So what if we borrowed the boldness of the private sector, right? And we start inventing things and testing them out as we go. What if, at the same time, we borrow the smartness of the public sector of having to spread every dollar very thin so that we can reach the most amount of humans possible? And what if we borrow the kindness of civil society and actually start respecting one another, especially when we disagree? And what if we insert some innovation to this equation? And so I bring you the bold, smart, kind approach. BSK for short. If you are a human on this planet, which I believe you are, this is applicable to you. Now, I look at some of you in the audience because if you are leading any of these entities, this is your responsibility. To be bold, we need to start disrupting systems that are not serving all of us. To be bold, we need to pitch new ideas and dare to seek financial investment to make them happen. We need to take risks and develop new technologies, yes. And if we fail, we need to try again. At the same time, with our boldness, we need to be smart and therefore do our research and build scenarios that tell us what are the good things or the bad things that could happen because of our boldness. We should be inclusive and try to bring everybody into that innovation. We should track our progress to see if it's working, and we should measure success, and just like politicians do, brag a little too. Let's not forget to be kind, though. And for us to be kind, we need to respect human rights at any nonviolent cost. We need to be equitable. We need to make sure that we're stepping up or stepping back, depending on what side of history we are. We need to seek to understand, especially when we don't. And we need to care. Yes, do care about what people say. Yes, do care about your self-care, the community care, and caring for our planet. Let's also hug more often. And if you don't believe me, there's science that backs that up. And let's also smile, but from the heart. As simple and colorful and beautiful as this looks like, as much as I like to say that I'm an idealist, I know that this is not going to be as easy as I think or as I would like. Because when you start adding all these things up, right, being bold and being smart and being kind, I'm talking about 18 different skill sets that we might not have. I'm talking about 18 different skill sets that we might need to learn, and there's bibliography that we can do some research and start exploring. I'm talking about different mindsets, transforming cultures, and perhaps shaping our budgets a little bit. But we got to start somewhere. So my invitation is that you start exploring what adventure you would like to take and start exploring any of these combinations until you reach that BSK sweet spot. Because if we want our governments to be bold, and if we want our movements to be smart, and if we want businesses to be kind, and most importantly, if we want to shape a better future than the one that the Jetsons lived in, the reality is that we're going to need a BSK, you. So today, back to the present, as I invite you to move boldly, and as I invite you to move smartly, and as I invite you to move kindly, I'm going to ask you to please stand, to make a power pose. Not the same I'm making. You can change it a little bit. I could see some biceps and stuff. And when I'm done, for you to clap as hard as you possibly can. Not for me, but for the BSK version of you and what we will be able to accomplish together. Thank you. Thank you.